cornmeal.
Yeah!
7 years of incredibly strange wrestling, which I will be selling in the back after this show. I'll even sign it for you, and I will sell it for $1 less than Amazon is selling it for right now. So right now, our first reader in set 2 of Figure 4 Caps Lock. She is the queen of the fire tassels. She is also the empress of the Naked Girls reading series. Put your hands together for Stephanie, Lady Monster.
Off to read. So, this is from the first goddess of the squared circle. Woo! Fabulous Moolah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I'm going to give you a few history lessons here. And the first one is, I started calling myself Lady Monster back in 1992 before the internet. And so once the internet decided to come around, I thought, well, I better, you know, I asked my record store friends, anybody using Lady Monster? Like, nope. Oh my God, it's mine. So then I decided I'm going to go look. You know, there wasn't no Google, no nothing like that. I did a search, and you know what I came up with? There was a Lady Monster. She was a wrestler. Back in the 1950s, Margie Markoff. And she was part of a whole group called the Monster Women. All big, giant women. Lady Monster herself was 6'2", 300 pounds. Woo! Wow. Hell yeah. And you know what? She fought this woman. All 5'4", 135 pounds of her. That's how tough this chick is. Keep that in mind. Moolah! Moolah. You know, my dad and I used to wrestle in front of the TV when I was very little, in front of wrestling shows. And we always used to use the word moolah when we meant money. Comes around, man. History lesson number 2, from the mouth of the moolah. As the 1970s got underway, it became clear I was a different kind of wrestler, different kind of champion. Mildred Burke and June Byers had both been popular with fans not only because they won, but because they played it wholesome. In terms of their ring characters, they were both good girls. Well, I had learned that you can entertain people a whole lot better when you're bad. And you know by now that if nothing else, I tell it like it is. I'm a straight shooter, darling. And I let the chips fall where they may. So how's this from not trying to run away from the things happened? The way things happen. I have no qualms whatsoever telling you I was a dirty wrestler. And the fans loved it. And I used to like to take a weapon, you know, like a piece of pipe, for instance, you know, into the ring with me. I'd hide it like back in my tights and check to see when the ref wasn't looking. And then I'd take that weapon out. And I'd introduce it into my opponent, usually across the head, while shielding the ref's view get caught. It was a way for the fans to be involved in the outcome too, because they'd come running up to the ring screaming at the referee, "She's got a pipe! Are you blind?" When that happened, of course, the referee would look over at them, giving me another great chance to pull the weapon from my thighs and use it right quick to open a gash on the poor girl grappling with me. And this would go on for quite a while. Sometimes I'd even let my opponent steal the weapon away from me, but only if the time was right. That is, right before the referee looked the other way. That way, he'd discover it in her possession! And then he'd disqualify her, you know? And I used to love it when that happened, because the fans would get all crazy, and just to rub their noses in it, I'd waltz around the ring showing off my champion belt, and once in a while holding that pipe too, which never failed to get a big reaction from the crowd.
Yeah.
And what I learned, of course, was that the people, they love a villain. And I would have been bored to tears if the character I played in the ring was always some goody two-shoes. And there's a difference between being a bit bad and being evil. And I never crossed that line. I was bad. And people like that, because people who are a little bad, a little flawed, are more interesting than people who have no dark side whatsoever to their personalities. And I've been proven right, too. If you look at wrestling nowadays, well, you needn't look no further than one of my favorite heroes, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Woo! That's right. Who has many of these same qualities. I think I might need some kind of glasses here. It's all dark. Around this time, I developed a favorite finishing move or two. I'd get myself trapped in a corner, and my opponent would come charging at me, and then shoulder first. And then she'd follow up with a hard knee. And I'd make it look like I could barely stand. And then suddenly, as the girl came back for a shoulder block, I'd dodge it. And I'd spin her around. And before she knew what hit her, I'd pick her up from under the crotch with one hand. And I'd hold her high in the air, where she'd be helpless. And the crowd would roar, anticipating a body slam. Far be it for me to disappoint the fans. But rather than just a small run-of-the-mill body slam, I'd throw that girl down, while I lowered myself and stuck out one knee. That's all. And she'd roll off my knee. Her back would land across my knee, a backbreaker. And she'd roll off my knee and be spread eagled on the canvas on her back. And all I'd have to do was cover her to get a 3 count from the ref. But, you know, that would lack style, so what I do is pin the girl by folding her body into a small package. I'd pin her shoulders under her own body weight with her butt high in the air, and her boots touching the canvas on the other side. That's me. You'd think that that would be it, but you'd be wrong. The ref would give the 3 count, but I'd always want to leave the crowd and the girl I was wrestling with something to remember old Moolah by. So after the bell rang, I'd land either a hard chop or solid kick smack dab into the center of that girl's chest. Boy, that would get the crowd worked up. A cheap shot after the bell. Remember what I was saying about intimidating your opponent? Well, nothing sent a better intimidating message for the next time after all, because, you know, I was wrestling a lot of these girls, same girls every other week, then forcing your opponent to walk off through the crowd with a giant red imprint on her forehead or a boot on her chest. Well, that's what I like to call my moolah brand. That's right. I remember doing just that once to my good friend Donna Christianello, another girl I taught. After my finishing move, I laid her out with a chop to the chest that echoed throughout the arena like a grenade exploding. And I can still hear the crowd gasping and laughing while I watch Donna walk off, that big red spot throbbing on her chest. Give her some credit though, folks, because she would not give me the satisfaction of even seeing her touch it as she made her way to the dressing room, even though you know it stung like something fierce. After you've seen these kinds of wrestling matches, there is no way you could come away thinking that women weren't meant to wrestle. It wasn't just me who was hard-nosed, tough as nails, and athletic to boot. To some degree or another, it was every single one of these girls. I had seen boxing matches where big guys would dance around the ring and do everything they could to avoid fighting. Well, you know, you've seen those, haven't you? Everybody? And they spend all this time moving around the ring, throwing a phantom punch here and there, and really what they're doing is they're stalling for time because they don't really want to mix it up. Well, you didn't see none of that in women's wrestling. We knew we were there to give the people what they wanted. And they wanted to see some down and dirty brawl. And that's what we gave it to. Well, when we were allowed to, that is. See, even into the early 70s, it was illegal for women to wrestle in 7 states, including New York! Believe it or not, folks. And you know by now how I react when I come up against some stupid rule. I declare